Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We've officially made it through 6 weeks of the UFL season. In week 6, I went 3-1 with my picks, giving me an overall record of 12-12 on the season. Hopefully, this is a good sign that on the back half of the season, I will have a little bit more luck with my picks than I did at the beginning of the season. Now, let's get into my picks for week 7. So week 7 kicks off this Friday, May 9th. As the DC Defenders, who are 4-2, take on the San Antonio Brahmas, who are 1-5. DC is coming off of the loss to the Michigan Panthers, in which, offensively, they were able to put up a bunch of yards, but unfortunately weren't putting up a lot of points. And Michigan's offense DC's defense didn't really have any answers for Michigan's offense. Ultimately, it was just too much for them to overcome, and they couldn't get the victory. The San Antonio Brahmas are coming off of a loss to the Birmingham Stallions, in which their offense continues to struggle. They maybe were a little bit better this week as opposed to some weeks. They made a quarterback change. They started Kevin Hogan at quarterback as opposed to Kellen Mond. He did okay, but had a few miscues. Wide receivers had a lot of drop passes, and stuff just still continues to not go right offensively, and they're getting to the back, and they're a little over halfway through the season at this point, and San Antonio still looks like they are still trying to figure out what they want their identity to be on offense. San Antonio actually did make a trade this week for a wide receiver. They traded for wide receiver D. Anderson from the Memphis Showboats. However, I don't think that's really going to help them out too much this week, as it is going into a short week with them going into a Friday game. So it's not going to have too much time for him to come in and learn too much of the offense. So at least for now, I don't think it's going to be too much of a difference maker. Well, I think it will help out the offense, even with as limited of a capacity as he could have to start. I think it will still be good for this offense and be very good for them moving forward towards the back end of the season. For now, I don't really think it'll make a huge difference for them. So, also, San Antonio is actually the first team. Their only victory of the season is over these DC Defenders. Now, do I think that they'll be able to pull that magic out again and somehow manage to beat DC? I don't. My pick for this game is going to be the DC Defenders. Their offense continues to look good. They didn't score a whole lot of points against Michigan. They can still move the ball very good. Jordan Ta'amu still plays very well. And I think that San Antonio's offensive struggles will continue, and DC will be able to take advantage of that defensively, and I think their defense will be able to play very well against the San Antonio offense that has been struggling for most of the season. So I do think that that DC avenges their loss in the first game to San Antonio, and they get the victory here. Your next game on Saturday, May 10th, you have the Michigan Panthers, who are 4-2, taking on the Arlington Renegades, who are 3-3. Michigan coming off of their win over the DC Defenders, and Arlington coming off of a very low-scoring loss to the St. Louis Battlehawks. It was a game in which Arlington did not score an offensive touchdown, and unfortunately, to make things even worse for their offense, their leading rusher, Kalen Ballage, appears to be out for the rest of the season with an injury. That's a very unfortunate hit for them. My pick for this game is going to be the Michigan Panthers. Even before Kalen Ballage was ruled out for the season with an injury, I would have picked Michigan. They look like too much of a complete team at this time. Arlington, obviously, with the exception of that game against St. Louis this past week, has had a very good offense, and Luis Perez is a very good quarterback, and been able to do a lot of good things for them offensively. But I don't think that they're going to be able to do enough against the Michigan Panthers, as Michigan's quarterback, Bryce Perkins, is, I say this pretty much every week, he's playing at an MVP level. Mike Nolan, the head coach of Michigan has decided to stop doing the two-quarterback system. This is Bryce Perkins's offense, unless he gets injured or has to get taken out of the game for any reason. They're no longer trying Danny Etling with split reps. It is Bryce Perkins's team the whole way the rest of the season. And he continues to shine in this offense. Also, running back Toa Taua has played very well and run the ball very effectively the past few weeks. Each of the past 2 or 3 weeks, he's gotten a rushing touchdown. He's been running the ball really hard. He's been actually having very good games. And this is somebody that they basically signed off the street a little over a month ago. He was somebody that was in camp with them and didn't make the roster, and due to injuries has called back on, and he has been their leading rusher the past few weeks. So I do think that just because of how well-rounded and how balanced this team has been, both offensively and defensively, both playing very well, I think the Michigan Panthers get the victory here over the Arlington Renegades. Now, moving on to Sunday, May 11th, you've got the Houston Roughnecks, who are 3-3, taking on the Birmingham Stallions, who are 4-2. Houston is coming off of a very close victory over the Memphis Showboats, where their defense continued to play well. Their defense has been playing very good the past few weeks, and they look like they continue to get better. And their offense, led by quarterback Jalen McClendon, also continues to play well. Looks like he keeps getting better each week. So their offense is very much going in the right direction, especially compared to where they were early in the season when they had Anthony Brown and Nolan Henderson as their quarterbacks. I think Jalen McClendon has been a very good improvement on their offense. Now, the Birmingham Stallions are coming off of their win over the San Antonio Brahmas, in which I think it's the biggest margin of victory they had all season. I think they won by like 23 points. But Birmingham's offense, although it played well, they never really seemed to get into a very good rhythm, as they did have split reps at quarterback, split series at quarterback with Case Cookus and Andrew Peasley. And both of those quarterbacks, they played pretty good. They both got banged up in that game. Like I remember with Case Cookus was talking about hurting his knee, or he had done something to his knee in that game. Andrew Peasley got sacked a few times, and he had a couple times where he was slow to get up. So both those quarterbacks were very banged up in that game, against San Antonio. So you gotta see what they're gonna look like this week and what really their direction is at quarterback for Birmingham. Are they gonna keep trying to go with Case Cookus? Are they gonna try to keep splitting reps with splitting series at quarterback until they find the right answer? That they're not really going in. They're an offense that has really struggled to find consistency because they keep swapping out quarterbacks. So my pick for this week, I am going to go with Houston to win this game. I think they get the victory over the Birmingham Stallions. These two teams played each other a few weeks ago in the game that Jalen McClendon had to go in for Nolan Henderson due to injury. And, he played well. He kept that game very close for them. And I think that him going into this game, being the starter, having a few weeks of experience starting at quarterback, I think that this Houston team is going to be able to play well enough to get the victory. And right now, I trust Houston's offense more than I trust Birmingham's, just because of their QB situation. So, I said I question what they're going to do at QB. They've played 4 different quarterbacks this season, and they're 2 guys they have right now are banged up. They're a couple injuries away from having a 5th different quarterback on the season, and you just can't sustain an offense or get an offensive identity if you keep changing out quarterbacks and not allow one of them to find a good rhythm. Unfortunately, Birmingham has suffered from injuries at the quarterback position. There was Alex Magoo in the second game of the season, or Matt Corral a few weeks ago after he'd been playing well. Case Cookus now getting beat up, Andrew Peasley getting beat up. You got to really question what their offense is going to look like with all these different quarterback changes. So I do think that Houston can get the victory here. Now, your final game of the week, your second game on Sunday, you have the St. Louis Battlehawks, who are 4-2, taking on the Memphis Showboats, who are 1-5. St. Louis is coming off of their win over the Arlington Renegades, and Memphis is coming off of their close, hard-fought loss to the Houston Roughnecks. Memphis has been playing very well the past few weeks. They've had Dresser win in at quarterback. Their offense looks to be a little bit better than it was with E.J. Perry starting for them. But for this game, I've still got to go with St. Louis. My pick has got to be St. Louis to win this game. I've already really thought they kind of had the edge going in this game, especially offensively, as Max Duggan has played very well in his few weeks as a starter. He's able to run the ball very well. He's making pretty good decisions as a passer, trying not to force stuff. He doesn't have a whole lot of turnovers, which is very important for, especially young quarterbacks to have good ball security. Jalen Sailors, of course, continues to play very well. Very good running back for them. Do damage both in the rushing game and catching passes out of the backfield. I just think their defense will be able to play very well against this Memphis offense that actually lost one of their better offensive pieces, trading away D. Anderson to the San Antonio Brahmas. So I do think that the St. Louis Battlehawks get the victory over the Memphis Showboats. Let me know in the comments who you guys think are going to win. If you guys are excited for the rest of the regular season. I'm very excited to see what happens with as we get playoff pushes and what teams could get those playoff spots, because there's only 2 playoff spots per conference, and these conferences are playing very competitive football, very close football right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, see ya.